By way of introduction, my name is Irene Liu, and I'm the Director for AI, Emerging Tech, and Regulation here at the International Fund. This work has, IFPIM Tech, as it were, is the sort of evolution of a strategy that we started in 2024, focused look on the impact of technology on our work and on the information ecosystem overall, particularly around the issues of economic sustainability for public interest information. Our goal in our work is to secure the future of reliable information amid technological upheaval. And the reason why we've really decided to kind of double down on this work is because we think that the advent of agentic AI and generative AI has actually created very, very clearly a huge disruption in the current business model. If we saw market failure for media, basically since the advent of the internet, generative and agentic AI in the form of AI overviews and other types of technologies is rapidly changing user behavior. We're seeing, complete cliffs of, falling referral traffic to media, which has completely disrupted the digital business model for news. But because user behavior is changing so rapidly, and we're going to see these technologies flow through every aspect of our lives in many markets, we do believe that there is a short window to reshape the economics and dissemination of information as users adopt new personalized ways to access information. Now, we believe this is very complementary to the work that we do because of the fact that, as with every technology we've seen so far, it's cumulative. So in several of our markets, in many of our markets, community radio will still be incredibly important to people's lives, as will internet searching, social media, chat apps, and others. But the underpinning of many of these platforms will be these new technologies. And so we need to work to think through how the industry overall is going to be able to not only sustain through this period of change, but also perhaps be at the front lines and to help to shape exactly how this is going to look for users. And we think that there is an opportunity, particularly in our markets. We have seen that, as with every other generation of technology, there has been leapfrogging in the global South markets. We also believe that because language and culture is, so important to the way these technologies function, that there is an opportunity if we invest early, if we think about this, if we work collaboratively, and we bring together policymakers, media, technologists, and other information providers to be able to actually marshal a demand for new products and new alternatives that will put veracity and quality of information as a priority. If I could go to the next slide, please. The way that we want to do this is with IFPIM Tech, we want to focus on enabling public interest data infrastructure and governance models that allow responsible AI ecosystems to flourish. So we know that there are, many big global players that are going to be building platforms. We don't want to work. We want to basically work, and complement their efforts, because we know that the data will need to flow into those platforms. But we also believe that one of the ways to ensure that the entire ecosystem values things such as veracity and others is to create alternatives. And that's sort of part of our strategy here. And we believe very much that there's an opportunity with the burgeoning open source movement, the fact that many countries are investing in kind of open source LLMs tailored to their language and context, that there's an opportunity for new types of partnership. Next slide. So we do this in three ways. We have three pillars of work. The first one is research and thought leadership. We're looking at doing original research within our own organization and also supporting other organizations in our target markets that are focused on looking at how emerging tech is reshaping the economics of public interest information and the various mechanisms for media and others to begin to start to tackle these issues in their own organizations. So you can see here in this photo, we have a publication that we did in partnership with a few organizations, including Momentum Journalism and Tech Task Force and the Journalism Relay Project in Brazil, focused on the robots.txt and media's adoption of it. And trying to contextualize it as a kind of a technical exercise, but also why it fits into the larger picture of kind of where the media ecosystem needs to go to begin to address these issues. And we are really focusing on that in a number of our markets this year, in particular in Brazil, Indonesia, and South Africa. And then also through other grant making, now allowing this kind of research to scale by sharing methodologies. Next slide. The next piece is to, sort of bring together and build a stronger coalition and advocate around the very, very specific issue of kind of the advent of emerging tech and AI and the economic sustainability of media and public interest information more broadly. Last year, we convened a series of conferences called Control J, which were based in Sao Paulo in Brazil, in Johannesburg in South Africa, and in Jakarta in Indonesia, and Kuala Lumpur. And the idea was to really have a strong focus on the region, to really tackle it at a more local and regional level, the challenges that we're facing in this very, very specific and narrow intersection. We know that when it comes to policymakers, when they're grappling with AI, they're thinking about economic growth for their markets, they're thinking about environmental impact. And so, what seems to be a quite narrow piece of work, which is part of a larger puzzle for them, we feel is incredibly important. So we believe that by bringing this coalition together, coming up with the research and potential solutions, identifying the challenges, and presenting them to policymakers, that we're able to, with the depth and the focus, be able to raise it on the agenda, because we think that all of the hype, kind of like macro trends are there in terms of national sovereignty, learning the lessons of social media and Web 2, and not wanting to repeat those. But we think that in some ways the industry, we have to do the collective work to advocate for that, because they are not going to be able to kind of focus on it as deeply in the way that we have with the experience on the ground. We do this in partnership with a number of really fantastic and strategic partners. And then what we do at the sort of global level is to take the learnings and all of the work that's being done to try to bring it to global forums as well. Another thing that we've been doing is trying to work in partnership with governments and have cross-fertilization around that work. You can see here we've quoted the Vice Minister of Communications and Digital Affairs in Indonesia, who attended 2 of the different conferences. And at every meeting, we've arranged a side meeting where government representatives from Brazil, South Africa, and Indonesia have all met to talk about bringing a collective agenda forward, focused on the markets that we're operating in. Next slide, please. And finally, and this is the newest area of work, we want to take those collective learnings and also the convening and translate that into really trying to reimagine and build for this next kind of this next iteration of the information ecosystem. We are working in partnership with mission aligned technologists and connecting them to information producers. And the idea is that by bringing these 2 kind of different groups together, we're able to then build the kind of intermediary layer that will help connect the information to the products that will reach consumers. And in this effort of, in this moment of disruption, think even bigger to try to convene and bring these folks together to think through how you can actually build, for example, chatbots built off of open source local LLMs, and really focus on that collective. And with that, I'll hand it back to Nish.